purpose of this work is bigger than just learning how to be connected, like let's say in the way that Peter and I were. What I realized was the larger context is that there's a whole new paradigm. So the paradigm that was 40 to 60, 70 years ago was this individual one, where we awaken to becoming sensitive to our subjective experience. Sigmund Freud, others pointed to the fact that there was something to pay attention to. There was something internal that you could begin to wake up to that would change your life and could heal and give you insight as to why things were the way they were, your beliefs, all the things that are current at this point. And this next paradigm, this is back to being on the edge. The next paradigm that was so exciting, I was so happy that there was a new one finally, is that what happens between us, not interpersonally, that's not new. Learning how to relate to each other with more sensitivity. You're over there, I'm over here, we're beginning to, to work on how we relate, is different than intersubjective. So intersubjective is when two people, like the way Peter and I were, we went inside the same subjective experience together. So we were in a unified experience. There was still both of us. There was a distinct uniqueness, but we weren't separate. And I could feel what he was feeling, he could feel what I was feeling, and we could look out together and see and experience existence from inside the same consciousness. And I'm sure everyone who's listening to this or watching this, has had experiences where you sort of pop through the, you fall through the rabbit hole, and together you're inside of an experience that that you're sharing absolutely simultaneously together. And so the beginning of this paradigm is what is that? What is this consciousness? What is this unity consciousness? How do we consistently begin to enter into that with one another? And in the being inside of it, what activates it? What deepens it? Where does the creativity arise? What kind of love can be present? What kind of knowledge can come to us? So living inside of the paradigm that we're working on in the Evolutionary Collective, in this shared and a subjective field, the bleed through of knowledge and just knowing things and feeling other people and having that, what some people would say, somebody who is very intuitive, it really goes beyond that because it's shared. And we're in some kind of a matrix of connectivity and knowledge that begins to get stronger and stronger, is just one example of what starts to happen in this field. Another thing that I find really profound was your sense of self is quite different. So the sense of separation falls away when you're with other people and you're walking down the street. I live in New York City part of the time, and as you're moving through the world, whether it's nature or other people, you're actually feeling more of the flow of what's happening, and you don't feel bombarded, which you would if you felt very separate. It's like there's a quality of consciousness that's very fluid and very transparent and is paying attention to only what it needs to. So it works quite differently. And there's a man named Dr. Robert Keegan, who's a Harvard professor, who has studied adult human development, and one of the things that I found very encouraging was that this paradigm and the consciousness that gets developed in this paradigm, one of the things that he's asserted is that it's the highest level of human development. He calls it self-transforming mind, and it's where instead of paying attention to your individual goals and process and what you're processing and how you're feeling and being tuned into yourself, your consciousness is more interpenetrating, and you're paying more attention to this quality of interpenetration, and that takes you to a further development as a human being. And that's definitely what's happening for people in the Evolutionary Collective, and it's definitely become really acute for me in my own consciousness, and it's exciting. It's actually exciting to feel something new that's happening.